Welcome to the world of American sculptor John Raimondi. With monumental sculptures in the collections of museums, colleges and universities, airports, and dozens of other public and private locations throughout the United States and Europe, Raimondi is among the most important and prominent sculptors living today.
John is a master at many things. He is a lover of life.
A very powerful, charismatic, and eccentric, and amazingly creative man.
He really throws his whole soul into everything he does, so he's a very vivacious, intense person to be around.
They show the incredible growth and diversity and intelligence of this man.
You don't get to have a 45-year career by shocking audiences and chasing trends. You get it by studying art history and learning your materials. And you can feel it in your bones when you stand before one of his sculptures.
I want to talk about my drawings for a bit. They're the most profound part of the evolution of a sculpture because they're the seed, they're the germination. The drawings teach me what the sculptures are going to look like.
You sense his clear understanding of classical principles, such as proportion, scale, line, and the treatment of light and dark. And yet there's that other ingredient, that mysterious thing that's harder to put a word to. There's an unbridled wildness that coaxes our eyes skyward and allows our spirits to soar. It's what you might call the third thing. There's the artist, then there's the material, and together they manufacture the third thing. Not many artists do it. John Raimondi does.
One of the fun parts of a drawing is the experiment of color. I love using different medias, from chalk to oil stick, just to graphite, sumi ink. All the materials keep me in the studio longer. That's how I get to find the sculpture. Sumi ink is the most direct. Like improvisational jazz, you can't correct it. You can't erase it. So you either have the gesture or you don't. That's why most of the pieces of the jazz series were in sumi ink.
I've known John for more than 35 years, and he basically works in cardboard. And he starts with a drawing, and for example, if he's doing a piece about horses, he studies horses. If it's about cranes, he studies cranes. And he begins by doing cardboard cutouts and folding the cardboard. And what's really helpful is that if a cardboard piece needs to be reinforced because it'll fall over, so cardboard at 12 inches reproduces in steel or bronze at 12 feet. So there's sort of a natural structural engineer quality to John in the way he creates his works, because he'll make a rib on a sculpture and he'll know when to put a gusset in cardboard. And other times he'll do a sculpture with the studio up in New York, and it's more or less just assembling a kit of parts, and there are no drawings for those sculptures. The Native American series was mostly constructed in that manner.
But it's always the drawings that have attracted me to his work, because I mean there is the genesis of the inspiration, and there's that spontaneity of the work, and you feel so much of his soul in those drawings, and those early works that are of course very precisionist, and then the later works that become so fluid and sort of lyrical.
Well, this book is bringing out a whole new dimension of his work. What's interesting about it is that he does these very free, very quick sketches, does a lot of them, sometimes does hundreds, I think, as studies for a sculpture. But then there's such an interesting contrast between how quickly the drawings are done and then the quite laborious and thoughtful process of fabricating the sculpture itself. And I think this has to do with his method, which is trying to do something that's very well constructed, but that also has a spontaneity and freedom to it.
The 2 studies for Billy, and then the 2 drawings also for Dances with Cranes. The elegance that are in those drawings, it just captures me. It's again, there are 2 or 3 lines that just are in that beautiful dark ink, and you look at it and you're thinking, is this some version of, Asian watercolors that we're looking at? Do you kind of expect to look in the corner and maybe see that little inscription in some kind of Asian lettering? Or is it a modern, or contemporary abstract artist who's working here? So you have to stop and think. You look at it and you're like, what exactly am I looking at here? So those 2 studies that are in the exhibition really get to me.
Sometimes in the evolution of a sculpture, I start by drawing super realistic drawings of the subject, for instance, cranes or lupus, Latin for the wolf. And slowly over the process of time, could be 9 months, could be a year, the sculpture evolves from representational to a gesture of what the animal is. I was born in 1948 to 2 parents that really wanted me. In 1955, I started making model airplanes, model cars, model trains. We lived above a hobby shop, and that really taught me a lot about scale. In high school, I built a hot rod, which also taught me how to use metal and paint and form and color. I painted the cover of my yearbook in high school in 1966. In 1971, I built my first monumental sculpture. It was exhibited at Boston City Hall. In 1975, I was awarded my first big sculpture commission for the Interstate 80 Bicentennial Sculpture Project. I did a sculpture about my mom called Irma's Desire. 1985, I was commissioned to do Lupus, Latin for the Wolf, 40-foot sculpture on the Charles River in Cambridge, Massachusetts. 1987, Lincoln Properties Company in Dallas commissioned me to do Aquila, Latin for the Eagle. 1992, I was commissioned to do Bravo at the University of Richmond in Virginia, 28 feet by 28 foot, 5 tons of bronze. 1995, Lois Pope commissioned me to do the 39-foot version of Spirit Ascending in bronze. 1999, I bought an apartment in New York City and started spending half of my time there and the other half here in Palm Beach. That greatly affected my work. I was able to be very current with all the museum shows. In the year 2000, I created my first Native American piece, Coyote. The most current of all the Native Americans is Broncos. I hope Broncos shows the wild spirit of the West. 2011, I did the Native American piece, Silver Star, in stainless steel.
The art is beautifully displayed. The relationship between the drawings and the sculpture is tremendous. You really get an idea of how John developed the sculptures by first doing the sketches. It's a wonderful experience.
It's really quite extraordinary to see 45 years worth of work displayed in a museum of this quality, and at the same time have this amazing book that's been published and that's going to accompany this show as it travels across America.
I first met John when I moved to West Palm Beach in 2007 and knew him first as being a private dealer of American art, and then learned about his work. And once I was at the Boca Museum here in 2012, I started to really know his work and started seeing his drawings, and saw the drawings and realized, this would make a really beautiful exhibition, because people know his sculptures in town because they are at various public and private places, but people weren't as familiar with his drawings, and they're so exquisite. And it's amazing how you could go from 2 or 3 lines on a paper to 20-foot tall bronze sculptures, and it was just like, we need to do an exhibition that really documents the whole process.
As a collector, I would recommend that anyone explore John's art. It's inspirational, it's uplifting, it's beautiful, and I love looking at it every day.
So we're really thrilled that it's traveling.
The book, Drawing to Sculpture, is an amazingly important document in the life of an artist of the caliber of John Raimondi, because it shows the evolution of the various pieces throughout his career, from the very first instance of inspiration through the more lyrical drawings, and then even post sculpture drawings, which are also very important to John. The text in the book really does describe really well how important drawing is and how important the drawings themselves are as art, even though they are preliminary and post sculpture.
The book is beautifully done, and they did it in quite a large format so that you almost feel like you're looking at actual drawings when you open up the book. I think the book itself feels like a work of art, and it's wonderful to be involved in a project like that. What this book is about is drawing you into the creative process of the genesis of the sculpture, and the drawings are incredibly revealing of the emotional impulse that lies behind the finished sculpture.
It's a true artist is someone who makes the incredibly difficult appear effortless. Think about how hard it is to make thousands of pounds of bronze appear weightless. He shows us that the impossible is possible because we see it right before our eyes.
Mark Van Tilburg and I met in the 5th grade when we were both 10 years old in 1958. We became best friends because we were the new kids in school together. We still are best friends. I love him. I also want to thank Ralph Canton, the love of my life, for 35 years believing in me. My brother Peter and his wife Christine have been married 40 years. Even before they were married, they both loved my work. They both wanted to live with my work. And now to think that Christine was the executive producer of this film and of my book, and my brother was the major sponsor for my traveling museum show. I couldn't be more grateful to both of them. Thank you very much, Peter and Chris.